It's the first point that I make with about everything, and that is number one, consistency.
Yeah.
If we can get consistent, I don't do nutrition counseling anymore, and one of the reasons is because I frankly got very, very, very tired of people saying, well, I did what you told me and it didn't work. Okay, let's try to break it down. Not everything works.
Right.
But invariably, people would say, I took it for like 3 days and I didn't get any effect at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how food works, exercise works, work works. Nothing works that way. It's not what you do for 3 days. It's what you do every day. And I just want people to be consistent with their supplement program.
Don't you love pills, potions, elixirs, tinctures? Don't you wish you could just take one magic pill and make it all go away, whatever that means to you? Well, we're talking with somebody today about 7 starter supplements for beginners. It's my, can I say bestie and not embarrass you, Kyle? This is Kyle Drew, clinical nutritionist, my friend, and joining us again. And this is like my favorite subject. And you know why? You and I have reminisced so many times about our teen years when we got into bodybuilding. You'd look at me and go, that guy never bodybuild. I used to have 2-inch smaller waist than I do now and was about 23 pounds heavier.
Wow.
And that's the biggest I could ever get
Amazing.
without the juice. Anyway, so I love supplements. You love supplements.
I do.
Both you and I have this crazy relationship with them that started way back in the day. And I think America's fixated on sticking pills in their mouth, right? So, but unfortunately, that kind of lives in the pharma world. How do we do it in the natural health world? Because you're like the perennial natural health guy. So how do we start on a supplement regimen? Because I got to tell you, Kyle, when I walk into a health food store, and I've been doing this since I was 16, I walk into a health food store and I get confused and I just feel lost. And then I can't even find a clerk to help me. And then it's like, well, forget it.
Well, I've been
Tell me about it.
I've been doing a radio show for 22 years here in Oklahoma City. And every single week, I kind of apologize for the natural health world and for the supplement world because, frankly, it can be overwhelming, confusing, frustrating. And the way things are marketed, it makes you feel like every single solitary supplement is must-have or I'm going to die by next Tuesday. And so I want to demystify it a little bit, and I want to give people some starting points. I think there's about 7 that people can just, if we can just get a few foundational ideas down. And here's the first one that I always say.
And you're prioritizing, right? I want people to understand.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, at the end of this, I'm going to ask you, if you can't afford the 7, you see where I'm going with that?
I get it.
Okay.
No. There's 7 thoughts that I want to give people when it comes to starting a supplement program. And the first one is it's the first point that I make with about everything. And that is number one, consistency.
Yeah.
If we can get consistent, I don't do nutrition counseling anymore. And one of the reasons is because I frankly got very, very, very tired of people saying, well, I did what you told me and it didn't work. Okay, let's try to break it down. Not everything works.
Right.
But invariably, people would say, I took it for like 3 days and I didn't get any effect at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how food works, exercise works, work works. Nothing works that way. It's not what you do for 3 days. It's what you do every day. And I just want people to be consistent with their supplement program. So that's just something to get out of the way first. Now let's jump into
philosophy.
the meat.
Cool.
Number 2. I think first things first, you need to cover the bases. And here's what I mean by covering the bases. Vitamins, minerals, that's the base. If When we're eating food, we're getting the vitamins, we're getting the minerals, we're getting phytonutrients. And the way that I like to get the covering of the bases is if it means a multivitamin, all right. If it means a multi-mineral, all right. If it means a multi-nutrient powder that might have greens and berries and herbs and fruits along with some vitamins and minerals, I think that this is just foundational. And what I'd like to see people do is make sure that they have the bases covered. Just the bases. The point is, if we can get the foundations taken care of, then we don't have to think about that. But if we don't have the basics, like the B vitamins, A, D, E, and K, if we don't have vitamin C down, if we don't have magnesium and potassium, if we don't have the minerals down, it is almost impossible to build on top of that faulty foundation.
Okay, pause. The one thing that I think is so important to reiterate from what you just said, when you said multi, whether it was a multivitamin or a multivitamin mineral together, or a or a powder with a lot of ingredients, you just made my world simple, Kyle. You just made it easy for me to comply, because even though I may need a lot more vitamin C or D or things like that, you said start here, which means I can go, at the end of the day, to be consistent, I could at least take 2 multivitamin mineral capsules a day, right? And now I've at least started on the road, right?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of good ones out there. I like Garden of Life.
And by the way, I want you to mention names of companies because we're a supplement company, as people know, Ultra Botanica. We have very specialized technologies that drive ingredients into the bloodstream. We don't make everything. We specialize in a particular space. So please tell our viewers a good place to go to the shelf so they can walk in and go, give me this one.
Yeah, I like to look there. If you go into a health food store, you're going to have a lot of good brands to choose from. You know what? I like Garden of Life.
I do too.
I just think it's been good. Jordan Rubin is who started it. That's not who's over it now.
Friend of yours.
Jordan Rubin has been a friend. And I think the foundations of how that company was started matters. There's a lot to say about it. I know that things have changed over the years, but generally speaking, if I were going to go and get a multi-nutrient formula, and it'll say for women over 50 or for men or whoever, but it's okay. Just go ahead and take it. I like that. That's not a bad place to start. There's a lot of other brands that are really, really good, but we'll start with that. The next thing, after getting the bases covered, the vitamins, the minerals, some of the basics, I said consistency. I said covering the basics. Number 3, I think you need to prioritize protein. Prioritize protein. I said 7 starter supplements. And now I'm talking about protein. Well, doesn't that come from meat and eggs and chicken and fish? Yes, it does. I don't think you're getting enough. Yeah. I don't know who you are, and I don't want to make a blanket statement, but in my experience as a nutrition counselor, you're not getting enough. Now, listen, particularly, and this, again, is not meant to be a blanket statement, but just based on my experience. When I did nutrition counseling with women, almost all of them were deeply deficient in protein, and a lot of them actually had an aversion to protein. It's like, oh gosh, more egg, more meat, more whatever. Right. And I'm not trying to beat you up over that. I mean, you like what you like. But if you're not going to be able to get it from food, and I would prefer that you did. I would prefer that you actually had real meat, real chicken, the right kind of fish, and that's getting harder and harder to find. But sardines maybe. Yeah. But eggs, this kind of thing, it's usually animal-based. But I think that will be better than relying on supplements. Having said that, I'm finding that it's very hard for some people to get enough of these healthy proteins. So I'm going to recommend that one of your supplements is a protein supplement. I like whey protein. I like grass-fed, grass-finished, whatever. It's not grass-finished when it's a whey protein.
Right.
Finish means
Yeah.
yeah. But with whey protein, I do like the grass-fed. I like whey protein isolate. I like it better than concentrate. You'll see those. But I like whey protein isolate, rather, for a lot of different reasons. But what I think you ought to be just planning to do, make sure you get a good one every single day. Knock it down. If you want to put it in a blender, throw in berries, throw in a few other things, great. Perfect.
There's that flawless meal you talked about the other day.
Oh, well, we need to say something about that. I'm glad that you brought that up. We were doing various philosophies of how to get started. And one of the things that I said was have one flawless meal a day. Eventually, you'll get better than that. But if you're not used to it, have one flawless meal a day. Well, one way to do it is with a great smoothie.
Exactly.
And here's, the anatomy of a great smoothie is pretty basic. You put something like coconut milk in a blender, you put the whey protein, you put some berries, and maybe you also add a multi-nutrient powder.
Right on.
That has the greens and the various berries and herbs and spices and various things like that. Blend that up. It's delicious. But I need you to get at least 25 grams of protein a day supplementally through like a whey protein shake. So if we can get that supplementally and then add a bit more protein through whole food, I think that you'll be great. I don't want to interrupt.
No. One quick statement is I love, again, that you're bringing this down into the Western world with what you just said. You'd love for people to be able to spend time preparing meats and fresh meats and doing all those kinds of things. And most Western-minded business people I know would go, who's got time for that? Well, you just gave them their out again by saying, look, I want you to get 25 grams a day at least. Well, guess what? You can do that in that one flawless meal you just mentioned that only had 5 ingredients.
Yeah, well, and just to be clear,
right?
Just to be clear what I meant.
Okay.
You got to have a lot more than 25 grams.
Yeah. But you can get that in. That's your one meal, right?
Listen, my protein shakes have 50. I put in 2 scoops. I need to get I need to cover a lot of ground. I don't have a lot of time, so I just put 2 scoops in instead of 1.
And again, quick benefits. You and I have said this before. Sugar cravings go down when I'm doing protein. My metabolism feels so much better and quicker, Kyle.
Yep.
There's just something about it, and my energy levels are way up. It's
interesting. I'm pulling out my phone. It's 1:23 right now when we're taping this. I had a 50 grams of protein, whey protein shake today at 6:30. And I haven't eaten anything else today.
Wow.
And I feel just fine. Now, if you're just starting off, you're not going to have that level of satiety starting out. I just want you to know this. You'll have a protein shake and you'll go, well, that guy said,
right. 2 hours later, they're going, what do I need to eat now?
Yeah. And because it's liquid. And so it might not feel as satiating as certain things might. I know it's taken a long time for me to get to the point where I recognize this. I am satiated with something like a hefty protein shake in the morning. But the bottom line is that most of you, I know it's hard to believe. You're not getting enough protein. You're just not. If you're a bodybuilder, I'm sure you are. Right. If you're a CrossFitter, I'm sure that you are. But you know who you are. If you're someone who says, well, I think I'm getting enough protein, I had rice and there were beans next to the rice. And one day I remember having an egg, and you're thinking about you're starting to think about the protein. Now, when we come back, I want to hit 3 more things right out of the gate, because we've talked about consistency, covering the bases, and protein. The next one that I'm going to talk about is important to help mitigate or prevent what I think 98% of all chronic diseases are related to.
Hey, if you like what you're listening to, you think we're bringing relevant content to you, guess what? Find us wherever you find podcasts. We're going to be talking again about 3 more, right?
Three,
Three
four,
more
something
points.
like
You've
that.
got starter supplements for beginners. We're demystifying the idea of pills and potions and elixirs and what you need as a foundation to get rock solid with this supplementation issue in your life. It's Ultra Life Today.
Our mission is to take nature's most beloved botanicals and enhance them with our liquid protein scaffold technology. This helps it reach your cells faster and better. With exponentially enhanced bioavailability, you'll feel better every day. Ultra Botanica, the feel-good curcumin.
Do you get confused when you're thinking about the idea of taking vitamins, taking minerals, taking supplements, taking powders, potions, elixirs, tinctures? Well, guess what? We're here to demystify a bit of that for you today with some strategies of supplementation that may even talk about this brand or that brand of vitamin or whatever, because we want to help you begin to get some consistency in your life with this idea of supplementation. And to do that, we brought in my best friend, Kyle Drew, clinical nutritionist, radio host extraordinaire, TV guy with Doug Kaufman for years. And I call you TV guy with him. You co-hosted that thing forever.
Doug Kaufman is the tippy top of the stack for me.
He's a lot to shoot for.
He's a mentor, and so he's one of those guys where I say, if you're talking about Doug, make sure you have a smile on your face, because that's what he means to me. When I say, you can say co-hosted, that's what I would always say to people. But the truth of the matter is, Doug makes it to where you feel like anybody could sit in that chair next to him and absolutely feel like they've knocked it out of the park because he guides so well.
Yeah,
so
he's amazing.
Yeah, we did that for a lot of years, and we had the same kinds of discussions that you and I are having today. What I tended to do was talk about supplements a lot on the show, and I also had in mind the beginners. I always wanted the least able, the least knowledgeable. I have a heart for them that I want them to know. There are a lot of people where supplements are not mystifying at all. Thank you. I'm glad. There's so many people that they're brand new.
You can turn off the podcast now.
And
if you're that person. For all the rest of us.
We talked about consistency being so important. We talked about covering the bases with a multi-nutrient formula. We talked about prioritizing protein. So number 4 is anti-inflammation. I need people to hear this, and it's so important. According to everything that we know in the scientific literature, inflammation is associated with about 98% of all chronic diseases. About 98%. If you've got something that's about 98%, just say it hits everything. I think that one of the biggest issues that, again, the general public doesn't address is the idea of systemic inflammation. Everybody knows what happens, if you punch me in the face, Josh, like you did last night.
Right.
But if you punch me square in the jaw and it starts to swell up, that is localized inflammation.
Right.
But it's different. It's related but different than systemic inflammation. And that systemic inflammation is associated with cancer, heart disease, diabetes,
every autoimmune
Alzheimer's,
disorder, everything.
Every one of them.
Kyle, it shocked me when I began to talk to key opinion leaders because, Adam Payne knows so many high-profile people in the world of integrative and functional medicine. Yep. And so I'd ask most of them off camera, hey, how much of disease really does come from inflammation? Right. And that's where I got the number you got, which is one of them said at least 99%. The other one said at least 92. And then I kept asking, and it was always closer to 100% of all disease. That's mind-boggling.
I know.
What in the world is a simple strategy for an individual to begin to lower their inflammatory markers in their body?
That inflammatory marker, if people get it tested, it's going to say CRP. It stands for C-reactive protein. And as that begins to rise, it means systemic inflammation is rising, which means a greater likelihood that chronic disease could be a greater risk for you. And so how to deal with this? I like the way you asked it, because we're talking about supplements, but I got to say diet comes first.
Right.
I'm just going to parenthetically say diet comes first. I mentioned Doug Kaufman. You need to go to knowthecause.com.
Agreed.
You need to look at the Fungus Link series of books. The diet, the whole program is there. But you know what it is? It's just real food. It's avoiding certain foods that contain fungal poisons. I know that sounds weird if you've never heard it, but it's things like wheat and peanuts and grains, various things like that, lots and lots of sugar, staying away from that. But then when it comes to supplements, I always like to begin with fish oil. I think it's just been studied so long. Some people think that's a controversial thing these days, but I like to begin with fish oil. You asked in another show when I said that, what about vegan options? That's the algae-based omega-3 fatty acids. So algae for you vegans, for everybody else, the fish oil. And there's a lot of different kinds now. There's the krill also.
Right.
That's interesting. But then I'm not trying to toot your horn, but
Please do.
But Ultra Cur's curcumin is different, you guys. Curcumin from turmeric is powerful only if you can get it to absorb in the body. Now, if you can, you've got a powerhouse on your hands.
Right.
But the way that most supplement companies try to evaluate, either they just give you raw curcumin, knowing that it's not going to absorb it, you might not know, and you'll pay us money to do it. That's what some supplement companies frankly do.
Right.
Other ones really want to help, and they've tried various things. What Adam and the guys over at Oklahoma Memorial Research Foundation,
Oklahoma Medical,
yeah. And they were looking for a way to get it to absorb, figured out something special. They call it the LPS technology. It is the only curcumin that I recommend. It's the only one that I take. My wife takes it. My 19-year-old son takes it. I take it. And we all have different versions. I've noticed that about you guys.
To your point, Kyle, the thing that amazed me after I met Adam, had my own experience with UltraCur, was the fact that now we have probably worldwide about 1,000 integrative and functional medical practitioners who have used every high-end, professional-only curcumin brand in the world, and they won't touch any other curcumin product. You call us a delivery company, and I appreciate that because we figured out a way to get certain things into the bloodstream at exponential levels. I want to say one last thing about when Kyle said CRP, please write this down. This is super important. This is an inexpensive test, a high sensitivity C-reactive protein test. Your doctor can recommend it if you're insured, and they will. If you call up and say, hey, I want one of these. Most conventional doctors don't historically do these. All the integrative doctors, one of the first things they do. Get one done, and if you have to pay for it out of pocket, guess what? It's going to set you back about $55 or $60. You don't want that number to be above a 1, but the closer to a 1 is, the healthier you are. So without being prescribers or recommenders or doctors, go get a CRP test. I think it's so important because it's going to stick in your mind, and then you can maybe go back in 3 months after you start implementing some of this guy's incredible strategies, simple steps to get healthier, and then all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, I was at a 4 and now I'm at a 3. I'm adding years to my life. I'm getting healthier. It's just a mind thing.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so.
And it's so inexpensive.
Well, fish oil, curcumin, ginger, various other spices, even even oregano. Things like that are tremendous. We've got a long ways to go and a short time to get there. So let me move on to the next one. Number 5, blood sugar support. I have found over the years when I was doing nutrition counseling, everybody over a certain age, and it's different for everybody, but, not a 7-year-old, everybody over a certain age gets to the point where there's a little bit of a blood sugar lack of control. It's a little up, it's a little down, it's a little woozy, it's a little wazzy. I want everybody to have stable blood sugar. Again, I say, supplements are supplemental. We're talking about supplements, but I have to say, if you care anything about your blood sugar, you've got to get the diet right.
Back to diet.
You have to get the diet right. I think you need to get exercise right. But as far as supplements go, dadgummit, you guys, you did it again. I think the most important single supplement that I've ever seen in the last 10 years, it's not just your Ultra Cur. I love it. I don't think it's the most important. I think it's one of the more innovative. But the most important supplement I have seen in the entire industry in 10 years comes from you guys at Ultra Botanica. It's called Ultra Metabolic. I have never seen anything like this, Josh.
It is the results that I've never seen either, Kyle.
I've called you. You've texted me at night. You have been telling me, we don't have enough time to go into this, but I have to say this. If you are dealing with blood sugar dysregulation, I'm not the doctor. Josh isn't the doctor. This is not the show that prescribes you anything. This is not medical advice. Nor is this a cure, nor is this a promise. No. That's a different show. That's not this show. But Ultra Metabolic is something that I am requiring you to investigate. You and your doctor can decide whether it's something you should take. But I am begging you to investigate it. ultratoday.com. But Ultra Metabolic is a combination of things like berberine, curcumin, and a half dozen or more Ayurvedic herbs that I was unfamiliar with.
Right, me too.
But another integrative physician we knew used that formula. They, at Ultra Botanica, added the berberine into it, the curcumin into it with their LPS technology. I am giving it to people who have walked around with one of those CGM, those continuous glucose monitors,
right,
who had as high as 400.
That's
400
that's
glucose.
An emergency room visit.
It's unbelievable. Who, I'm getting so close to this sounding like medical advice. Let's just say this. It is
so beneficial,
unfathomable what I am seeing with this. I've never seen anything like it. Now, I'm just going to leave it with Ultra Metabolic. There's other things like Chromium Pick and things like that. Enjoy. Stress management, number 6, sleep, number 7. Those two, it could kind of be integrated in terms of basic supplements that everyone needs to know about when they're starting out. Stress management, ashwagandha, L-theanine, things like Shazandra, which is a little berry.
Are you
and
a
it's
melatonin
incredible.
guy?
Okay, for sleep,
Yes.
I have to say,
'Cause it's a controversial subject.
I know it is. And I've had a love-hate relationship with it, but doggone it, I love it more than I hate it.
Okay.
I really
There you
do.
go.
Now,
There you go.
my wife despises it because she'll take melatonin and she has a nightmare every time she takes it. Really does.
True lucid dreaming.
Truly.
It happens to some people.
She can't stand the way that feels.
Yeah.
And my son, a lot of times that's the way he feels as well. Okay. So I would stick with things like L-theanine, even something like phosphatidylserine, taking it a little bit earlier in the day, but bringing yourself in for a landing. But there are so many different herbs like the theanine, even things like inositol and magnesium glycinate. Okay. Inositol, which is like a bee-derived vitamin, you take it in a high enough dose, It helps you sleep. Magnesium glycinate, not just any magnesium, magnesium glycinate. This will help you come in for a landing. The stress management, the sleep, they're both related. So we're just kind of combining the two. I hope this helps. I'd say go back, write it down. If you have a question, send the comments. We'll answer it for you. But this is the kind of thing that I would begin with if I were just starting out.
If you love what we're doing, share, subscribe, send to your friends. I know this is relevant information coming from Kyle Drew that is going to be meaningful and a simple thing for you to do to share with friends. You can find us wherever you find podcasts. Kyle, we've only got a few seconds left before we go out of this one, but I have to say this. Would you shock our viewers with what you told me on the radio show the other day with the metabolic issues? This statistic blew my mind. People need to hear it because I do want to shock our viewers because people do need to do something about this blood sugar support issue.
I need to get the reference, but Josh and I were doing the radio and I brought a new study in that was just published back in December, I think. And it said that 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy.
Wasn't challenged, unhealthy.
Said a different way, only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. That means that they have healthy blood sugar. That means that they can metabolize things effectively. It means that they're not gigantic around the waist and putting pressure on the heart. This is why I think that the most important supplement I've seen in 10 years, because of the profundity of how effective it is Ultra Metabolic. I think we should do a whole show on that at some point and maybe get Adam in and talk about that.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable, Adam.
You have been listening to Kyle Drew, clinical nutritionist, talking about seven
starter supplements for beginners.
Supplements for beginners. Thank you for helping me out with that. You're watching Ultra Life today. See ya.